as Americans, we know we have a serious problem with immigration, and we really and truly need to find a solution for this. We know that businesses in the United States need help in a number of capacities, from PhDs to people who are, not familiar with language, etc. And we also need a solution to the border security that gives us our national sovereignty. And so as we think about these things, the question is, how do we do it according to the principles that Americans believe in, that are our founding fathers' ideas? And so the first thing is limited government. We believe in a government that has very few functions, and those functions are things that we can't do for ourselves as responsible citizens. And when you have a limited government, you don't need to pay exorbitant taxes to the government to support programs such as we do now. We also believe in the rule of law. And law has a great deal to do with border security, because we have laws in the United States on how you enter and how you live in the United States as a legal immigrant or a legal worker. And then we have the feeling that there is a moral and humane component to everything that Americans do. We are very generous, we care a great deal about people all over the world, and yet we have this large body of people living in the United States in a very uncomfortable way. So as we look at this, we again come back to what is the solution? And as we look at the various plans for immigration reform or work permits, they do not adhere to our founding principles. This is critical, it is very important. So we feel that our red card solution as a work permit is the answer that does adhere to these principles. So let me talk to you a little bit about the red card. The red card, first of all, separates into two paths the way that people who wish to live in this country can go. One path is a path to citizenship, and as our Constitution is studied, you'll realize that one of the few powers of the federal government that is listed in the Constitution is creating a uniform law of naturalization. Citizenship and green cards will fall in that category. So that is something that has polarized people, got them wildly upset, makes it very difficult to pass a law on that topic. And so that's one path, but we have focused the red card on another path. And that is a path to a legal work permit status in the United States. That path is market-driven, first of all, which is very important because the work permit is about business. And business needs to be in charge of this because only business knows what is needed in this country in the way of jobs. So let's first of all let the market determine the number of workers that are needed in each category. We don't need the alphabet soup. We need to know what employers need in the way of help. And secondly, let's, instead of having government bureaucrats run this, let's have private businesses run the issuance of work permits. So our recommendation is this, that private employment agencies licensed by the federal government and outside of our borders makes these kind of matches between employers and workers who would like those jobs. And for the very first time to set up a legitimate business practice, which is to allow employers to post the jobs that they need to be filled and what those requirements are, what the salaries will be, etc., and allow workers to post their interest in these jobs with their qualifications, where they come from, where they would like to work, etc. So now matches can be made in the perfectly usual fashion that employment agencies always make matches. And remember, employment agencies are the greatest experts there are on matching employers and workers. They do it for fees, so that it's not a taxpayer situation. The employer pays the fees, the potential worker pays a fee, and that covers the cost, and it also incentivizes these businesses with a profit motive to do it well and quickly, which is never the case for a bureaucrat. So when the match is made, they will request the potential worker to come into the office, photograph them, fingerprint them, do DNA if that's what the government requires, whatever that list of requirements are, the job they're going to, etc. And then they send this information to the National Security Database to make sure that no crime has ever been committed in the United States by that person. They take the job, the information is encapsulated in a completely secure card that we call the red card. And we know that this is not rocket science today. Security cards are made all the time. And these cards have a microchip in them, like your MasterCard or another card. They can't be duplicated, they can't be forged, and they can be swiped anywhere that people have the right equipment. It can be at the border, it can be by a policeman, it can be by an employer. So you have a 99.9% knowledge that the person in front of you is the person who has the work permit, and it is a work permit, and that you're dealing with who you think you're dealing with, which I think is a great comfort. So that's the security of this situation. And the person can go to their job quickly. We're talking about less than a week of implementation to get proper cards. Now, this card works for border security because people who want jobs will find that if they don't have this red card, nobody's going to hire them because it will become too easy to have that red card, to get a legal worker. And so why would you risk turning to somebody who doesn't have that card? So at borders, people with those cards will come through the border. And the people, the security is that it may go down to 35,000 or 50,000 people a year trying to get across the border because the bad people, the criminals, are no longer camouflaged by good people simply trying to get here to find work to support their families. So that means that they can focus on them and get rid of people who come across, capture them, put them in jail, send them home, whatever is necessary to absolutely secure our border. And it's important that 82% of people across the lines of all political persuasions believe that there cannot be border security in the United States without a work permit program. So this is very important in that. It works, as I've said, for people who are here illegally. And there is no program that makes it possible for illegal workers here in this country now to become legal. There is no line. And so these people are now able to make an appointment with that employment agency outside of the country and get legal, go through the process, the photographs, the fingerprints to the National Security Database, prove they have a job, because this program is job specific. You can't get a work permit if you don't have work. So then they come in to their jobs, and they can come in completely legally and from anywhere in the United States. They can do this function, go outside of the border, go through the process, get their red card, and be back on their job within 1 week of vacation. So this is the way that all people who are suffering illegality in this country now, who are good people working hard, never gotten into trouble, to become legal and come out of the shadows. A very important piece of this program. It works for employers because American employers are now criminalized if they hire any foreign worker who isn't documented. And we all know that the number of visas is way too small, and that the backlog of the bureaucracy is so huge that we have an enormous number of illegals here. It's almost impossible for an employer to get a legal worker if they can't find American workers. I think it's important to realize that currently we are talking about millions of people who have the status of breaking the law. It's not just the workers who have come here in the hopes of supporting their family who weren't able to get visas, but it's American employees, probably employers, probably hundreds of thousands of them, who are now criminalized also if they reach out to a illegal person because they can't find American people. Now this program, one of the key elements of this program is you do not go to a headhunter in order to get a worker because you have to pay big fees if you can find a worker in your own community. So what it does is it gives the advantage to the American worker to be selected first. But for employers who cannot get help in a number of areas to be able to apply for a guest worker when you know who that person is, what their credentials are, where they come from, what their salary needs and education levels are, and to get that worker quickly is an extraordinary advantage that our program brings forward. So in conclusion, I think it's really important that we realize that 68% of Americans, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, feel that this particular program is a workable program, that it can be done, and it can be done efficiently and quickly to solve a major part of the problem that we face now on the immigration issue. If you'd like to know more about the Red Card Solution, please go to our website, which is redcardsolution.com, where you'll be able to learn lots more about it.